It is not your job to solve everyone's problems. Welcome back to the Pearls and Perils podcast. I'm your host, Peter Kay, and I'm back consistent on YouTube, on all my podcast platforms. It's not been easy, but I'm here. And Happy New Year, if it's not too late to still say that, but we're still in January. But if this is not a new year, when you watch this video in the future, Happy New Year anyway, for when it comes. Today's video, I really want to talk about something that I call the superhero complex. It's something I was thinking about a few weeks back, and I think so many of us struggle with this. I know for a fact I'm someone who struggled with the superhero complex. And what do I mean by that? We talk a lot about people pleasers and having boundaries and the importance of having boundaries. But I think there's a specific group of people that aren't necessarily people pleasers per se, but do fall under this category that I have coined the superhero complex. And those are the kind of people that they run in and they rescue. They're always rescuing someone, helping someone. They're the kind of people that tend to be nurturers. Perhaps they're a parent, they're a mother, they're an eldest daughter or older sibling, and they're just in a nurturing role, or naturally, it's just something that comes to them to nurture people, to help people. They're an empath, and quite often people like this do struggle with falling into the superhero complex, and that's what I want to talk a little bit about today. And so where do I start? I've got my notebook here. Help me stay on track. Okay, so I want to start by saying it's not your job to solve everyone's problems. Let's start there. And I say this to you, but I say this to myself because a lot of the times I find myself getting stressed out about other people's problems. And then I have to remind myself, okay, it's not your job to solve everyone's problems. It's not your job to have all the answers, to figure everything out. And something that I found with myself, the kind of person that I am is, if there's a problem, I switch into, okay, how can we solve this? I'm looking for a solution. I'm looking for a way that we can work around this. My natural tendency when there is a problem is to look for a solution. I'm not so much someone that there's a problem, I'm just going to cry about it and then that's it. Like for me, I snap into action, and I might be crying whilst I'm snapping into action, but I'm looking for a solution. And so I find when you're that kind of person, a lot of the times people can come to you with their problems, especially if they know that you are someone that's reliable. And it's very easy sometimes for me even to take on other people's stress and other people's worries and problems. And then I have to remind myself that, do you know what, it's not my job to solve everyone's problems. And I think there's a number of reasons why I've often fallen into that pattern, which I do want to get into later in the video. But if you can relate so far, what I want you to do is, especially if you're watching on YouTube, firstly, like this video, subscribe to my channel, and subscribe to the notification bell. I think that's what the YouTubers be saying. And why is that important? Because I want you to come and watch these videos when I drop them. You know, it takes time and effort to record and edit, and then to do so and see crickets is very discouraging. But I'm gonna keep going regardless. One of my goals for 2026 is to be consistent with YouTube. As much as I love recording short form content, my heart is in long form. I like to have a long chat. I like to have a yap, and that's why I've got a podcast, because I like talking about different things. I like to share my perspective, and I also like to hear other people's. So I'm really trying to be consistent in 2026 with being on YouTube. So help me stay consistent by liking and subscribing. First thing I said, it's not your job to solve everyone's problems. I'm saying this to you, but I'm also reminding myself of this fact. And I know it is easier said than done. And unfortunately, sometimes in life, you are dealt with responsibilities and things that you just didn't ask for, but they are naturally things that you somehow have to figure out. You have responsibility for. And sometimes these things can feel unfair when it's like, this is not my problem, or this issue has nothing to do with me, but yet I'm having to be the one to carry the burden, and it can get heavy. And this is why I'm talking about this topic in this video, is that if you are someone that you relate, you are the superhero in your family, you are the superhero in your friendship group, in your workplace, you're the go-to, you're the person that everyone comes to with their problems. And sometimes when you are that person, who do you go to? When you are the strong friend, when you are the one that everyone goes to, who do you go to? And I think sometimes it's very easy if you find yourself in this position to burn out because you are carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. And for me, I found that one of the reasons why I would be the superhero, I'd always try to swoop in and help everyone and solve everyone's problems. I think one of the reasons was one, my faith, being a Christian and having this responsibility that I've taken upon myself that I need to help others. I need to lead people to God. I need to save souls. And I think in that sometimes there was this level of immaturity where I almost felt like if I don't do this or do that, this person, their life is going to be over. And I think it was very much what's the word? A very black and white way of thinking. If you've seen my previous video about spiritual abuse, actually might be my previous video. I don't know which one I'm posting in what order, but I will have a video talking about that. If you watch both videos, you'll understand why I'm saying this point that I'm saying. But when I was in the spiritual abusive environment and church that I used to go to, we were made to believe that it was almost like the weight of the world was on our shoulders. If we didn't tell that person about Jesus, they are going to hell and they are lost forever. While I do think as a Christian, it is important to share the gospel, to share your experience and your testimony to lead others to Jesus. I think that's important. I think the weight that I was carrying was not a healthy weight. And it was just like, I'm not Jesus. I cannot save the whole world. I cannot. I can't do it. And I think carrying that weight, and again, like I said, feeling like I need to solve everyone's problems, I need to have all the answers, was one, unrealistic, and two, is one of the reasons I was constantly burning myself out. I did not have boundaries. I did not know when to say no. I would constantly overextend myself to help others when I had nothing. I needed help myself. I was tired. I was running on empty. But yet I would overextend myself because of this sense of feeling like, oh my gosh, I need to help this person. I can't say no. And feeling guilty in that. And as a result, I'd end up depleting myself. So that's one of the things that I personally dealt with when it came to this superhero complex. Another thing that I wanted to talk about as well is how that actually hinders the person. So let's say, for example, you've got someone, maybe whether it's a friend or family member, that they're always coming to you for help. Let's just say financial help, because that's an easier example. They're constantly coming to you every single month around the same time. There's a bill. There's something that's happened. There's always some kind of sad story. There's always a story time with them. And they're always needing you to bail them out financially. Now, you help them in January. They come back in Feb. You help them again. In March, you help them again. What you're doing by helping them is you're not allowing that person to get to the root of their financial problems. Because one, deep down, they know you're always going to bail them out. And I think this can be relevant if you're a parent. And again, you don't want your children to suffer. You want them to have a better life than you did. You want to help them. But sometimes in your helping, you're actually hindering. When you're not allowing that person to deal with the consequences of their actions and you're constantly bailing in and swooping them out of the consequences, they're never going to learn. And I think this is why it's important, if you know that you have that natural tendency to be a superhero, to constantly want to help people, it's so important for you to set clear boundaries, because unfortunately, sometimes people will just take advantage. If they can take, they're going to take, even if they know you have nothing to give. And it's an unfortunate and sad reality, but this is just the world that we're living in, where people quite often, they don't care about other people. They just want to get what they can. And I think as the person that's giving, you need to be the one to set those healthy boundaries for yourself. And at the same time, no one knows your limits like you do. And so if you do find yourself in a position where you're constantly having to bail someone out, or you find yourself, you're constantly having the same conversation, you're always having to give them the same advice and they're never taking it, again, that's when you have to pause and you have to really reconsider. Am I truly helping this person, or am I actually hindering them from figuring things out on their own? And I think it can be difficult when you really want the best for that person. You want to see them do well, you want to see them thrive. But one thing I've had to learn, and a very hard truth I've had to swallow, especially as someone who is a coach, that I work with people on a one-to-one basis, I help them with their personal finances. And a lot of the times I'm working with a client, we're talking about finances, but somehow it seeps into other areas of their lives, whether it's their relationships or their romantic relationships. It always somehow it always somehow connects to something else. But the point I'm making is this: I constantly want to help people, but I've had to learn that that person needs to want the help more than I do. I can't want it for them more than they want it. Because what tends to happen is when the person doesn't truly want change, they don't actually want help. What they want you to do is to solve their problems. What they want you to do is to do their work for them. And they want to see the results. They want to get the benefits of everything without actually having to put the hard work in. And if this is the scenario and these are all the ingredients you're having, it's just not going to breed the results that you want. And you're going to find yourself pushing a dead horse up a steep hill. And this is why I think it's important, if you find yourself constantly in the same cycle in your relationships, to really consider, maybe you identify as a people pleaser, but perhaps you're not actually a people pleaser. Maybe you just have the superhero complex. Now, this is not a real psychological concept, or maybe it is, but I think I just made it up. Or maybe I got it from somewhere and I think I made it up. But anyways, the point I'm making is this: as we have started and we're navigating a new year, or whatever point you watch this, tomorrow's a new day, right? I just think it's really important to go beyond the surface, to really start reconsidering, reevaluating your relationships and how you are playing your part in your relationship. It's very easy to look at others and to be like, oh, this person's toxic, that person's toxic. But maybe even in your helping, you're being a little toxic because you are over accommodating that person. You are setting them up to fail. And this is the reality. A lot of people, they don't want help. They want to be rescued. And it's important for you to apply wisdom when you are navigating your relationships, when you are put in a position where when somebody wants your help or they need your assistance with something, whether that's financial or otherwise. But again, it's for you to reconsider. And this is why I think wisdom is so important. We live in a world where there's so much information, there's so much content out there. This video you're watching right now is content I'm creating, but there's so much information, but there's not a lot of wisdom. And I think that's something that is really missing in our generation. There's so much knowledge, but there's not enough wisdom. And I think when it comes to your relationships and how you navigate life, something that you have to really seek for is wisdom and how to navigate it. Because life is not always black and white. Things aren't always straightforward or as they seem. And just a few thoughts before I wrap up. If you identify as a people pleaser, or if you identify as someone who has a tendency to want to rescue the whole world, you're carrying the weight of your family, your relationship, your job, your kids, you are carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, one thing that I urge you to do is just pause. Pause and rest. I think also something that comes with that heavy responsibility is that your brain is constantly ticking. It's always busy. There's always those things that you're thinking about. Oh my gosh, I need to do this person, I need to do that. The to-do list is never ending. And one thing I've realized, the reason why I burnt out so many times in my very short life was because of this. I didn't have clear boundaries. I was constantly trying to do things all the time. And a lot of the times, even though I'd be like, oh, I'm using my faith, I'm doing it with God. A lot of the times I was trying to do things by my own strength. And believe me when I tell you, all it led me to was burnout. I would be burning out like every other year. Whereas the last 2 to 3 years, I've actually not had a burnout. And even last year, I had a period of time where I was kind of like, I just need to take a break from creating content. But I wouldn't say I burnt out. I just kind of got to a stage where I got a bit bored of it. I wasn't seeing, it just felt like it wasn't worth my time anymore. And I just needed to take a break. I'd say my creativity just kind of like dried up and I was like, I don't really want to do this right now. I need to take a break. But as far as like a proper burnout, 2020, early 2020, end of 2019, that is when I really burnt out. And looking back at her and how I felt and thinking about how young I was 25 and I was burnt out because of work and church. And yeah, honestly, it was work and church. Was there anything else? And I guess just how I was navigating my life at the time. But looking back at that and looking at where I am now, I'm 30 years old. I'm going to be 31 in a matter of days, which is insane. Oh my gosh. But looking back at that time, and how I felt and how I was navigating life and how fast paced my life was going, I'm just so grateful to not be in that space anymore, to be in a place now where I feel more grounded in who I am. There's still a lot of room for growth, a lot of room for improvement, but I'm definitely more defined in who I am. And something I shared on my Instagram today is that in this season of my life, I'm not shrinking anymore. I'm not hiding anymore. I've had a podcast since 2015, started off from Mixed Cloud days. And when I first started, I don't think I even said my name. It was like an anonymous podcast, but it kind of was because I never shared it on any of my like personal social media. Didn't really talk about it. It was one of those things that if you knew, you knew. And also, it's only since 2020 that I've really started like posting my podcast. Even with that, I wouldn't like promote it constantly. But again, in this season of my life, it's time to stop hiding. It's time to stop shrinking. And I was thinking about it the other day, and I was just thinking, what would things be like if I had just really just put myself forward from the beginning? I don't know what my progress would be. Maybe it wouldn't be much different to it is now. I'll never know. But one thing I do know is that from this moment on, I'm approaching things differently. No more hiding, no more shrinking, no more, what will people think? Oh, I don't want this person to see me. We're not doing that anymore. I'm not going to limit myself anymore. There is so many untapped potential and opportunities out there, and I'm not going to hinder myself from doing that anymore. And maybe you can relate to that. Maybe there are things that you've been saying for a long time that you want to do, you want to get started, you want to do this, you want to do that, and for whatever reason, you haven't started yet. And I really want to encourage you, let 2026, let this year, let this moment of your life be a moment where you get into motion. Maybe you don't need more knowledge. Maybe you don't need to read another self-help book. Maybe you don't need to pay for another course. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But perhaps what's missing for you to see the results that you want to see is for you to get in motion. Because so many of us, we are sitting on untapped potential. We are sitting on God-given talents and purpose, and we're doing nothing with it. We're overthinking things too much. We're caring too much about all the wrong things and what all the wrong people think about, and allowing this to stop us. But I want to encourage you to step out, to step up, and make this your best year yet. There's certain things you can't control. Problems, they're going to come. You can't avoid all of them. But one thing I want to challenge you to do, and myself, is to take one day at a time, one moment at a time, and really just live in the present. Enjoy the moment. And I started my 365 gratitude challenge. I'm currently on what day is it today? Today's the 8th. So I'm on day 8. And so far, so good. I'm being consistent. I'm, making sure I'm updating my gratitude jar. There's a few times where I've forgotten. I'm like, okay, now I need to write 2 today. So by the end of this year, I will have 365 things written down that I am grateful to God for. And yeah, this is my journey. If you enjoyed today's video, if you found it useful, please like the video, share the video, subscribe. If you are listening on a podcast platform, then do ensure that you follow and subscribe also. And share this video with a friend if you found it useful. And I'll see you in my next video.